Hello! Welcome to Squid Essays. Inking your academic pen. My name is Julie and I will be your instructor as we read through China's String of Pearls policy. The article's source is embedded in the video description below. Feel free to read along. Please note that you can get a custom, plagiarism-free essay for as little as $10 a page at Squid Essays. The link is in the description. Chapter I Introduction String of Pearls. China's String of Pearls strategy is the name given to a geopolitical strategy adopted by China arising as foreign oil becomes a center of gravity critical to China's energy needs. 1. This policy on the face of it appears to be an attempt by China to have an increased access to various ports and airfields in the South Asian region and at the same time to developing special diplomatic relations with these countries. This seems to be a strategic move as China is establishing these pearls or a series of nodes of military and economic power, thus enhancing its overall influence in these regions. A question posed by the String of Pearls is the uncertainty of whether China's growing influence is in accordance with Beijing's stated policy of peaceful development, or if China one day will make a bid for regional primacy. 3. China gives the impression that it is interested in having a more powerful role to play on the global stage and thus evoking concerns in its neighbors, especially India, as being threatening. However, China's development of these strategic geopolitical pearls has been non-confrontational with no evidence of imperial or neo-colonial ambition whatsoever. Extension of the pearls. The pearls extend 5, from the coast of mainland China through the littorals of the South China Sea, the Strait of Malacca, across the Indian Ocean, and onto the littorals of the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. However, looking at the progress that China has made in the last couple of years, it may not be too erroneous to say that it is now trying to extend these pearls by making a foray into the African continent and the Central Asian regions. In light of this, it is imperative to focus on the above-mentioned issue and the concerned predicament in the minds of the other world power players as to the real design and intention of China and the consequence that this might have on the energy and economic security of these nations, particularly India and the US. Emergence of strategic players. The rise of this strategy has not only shifted focus on China and its growing energy needs but also has brought to limelight those smaller nations in which China is trying to gain foothold and develop these pearls. Nations like Myanmar, Bangladesh, Thailand and recently, countries like Sudan, Egypt and Nigeria etc., which are rich in energy resources, have come to play a major role in the world's energy needs. These nations are fast becoming the center of the world's energy playing field and are emerging as the strategic centers around which this game of energy security will be played out in the coming future. Hence, it becomes essential for fast developing countries like India and Brazil, who need their share of this energy market, to progress ahead in order to counter China's strategy at the earliest. These nations need to evolve their own strategy if they do not want to be left behind, because not acting at this point in time may have a huge impact on their economies in the coming future. Methodology statement of the problem. This paper seeks to study and analyze the impact of China's String of Pearls policy on the energy security of the world's major players in general and India in particular. Hypothesis. China's String of Pearls policy does not have security implications for India militarily but will have definite implications on the energy security, particularly that of India and US. Justification of the study. China, in the past decade, has influenced the behavior of its neighboring nation-states to quite an extent. In continuing with its stated policy of economic reforms, it had to secure all the energy resources that it could in the available time frame. Although the name String of Pearls was a name coined by a minor Pentagon analyst, but certainly it does indicate China's quest for securing its energy needs by occupying certain areas of influence in and around its neighborhood. China, in recent past, has started making headway into the vast energy resources of Africa and Central Asian regions apart from the resources in Myanmar, Spratlys and Paracel Islands. Hence, a detailed study is required to look into the effects that may be caused by China's incursions into these yet untouched and somewhat unexplored regions. The world took some time to wake up to the vast amount of energy resources that these countries had, and China had a head start in this regard over other nations in these regions. The study tries to bring out the effect that the existing pearls have on the energy security of India and other nations and examines the new pearls and their effects on the energy security of these nations. Scope: this study concentrates on the specific issue of string of pearls policy and the impact of this policy on the energy security of India in particular. This study also tries to bring out the aspect of China's inroads into the African countries and the Central Asian regions as an extension of this policy. The aspects of China's military modernization as an offshoot of this policy have been kept out of this discussion. Operational definitions, methods of data collection, organization of the dissertation. Rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV VSM, USI Journal, July, September 2009. www.ysgeek.com/ What-is-a-string-of-pearls-strategy.htm www. U.S.-China Commission, 2005 Report to Congress. Rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV VSM, USI Journal, July, September 2009. www. M.K. Bhadrakumar, India and its Troublesome Neighbors, The Hindu, November 2, 2009. Chapter 2, Historical Background, How China Transformed in the Last Decade. Before we begin to discuss the String of Pearls policy in detail, let's take a look at how China has transformed itself economically in the last 10 years. China is the third largest economy in the world after the US and Japan. China has had the fastest growing major economy for the past 30 years with an average annual GDP growth rate above 10%. In 1978, after years of state control of all productive assets, the government of China embarked on a major program of economic reforms. In an effort to awaken a dormant economic giant, it encouraged the formation of rural enterprises and private businesses, liberalized foreign trade and investment, relaxed state control over some prices, and invested in industrial production and the education of its workforce. By nearly all accounts, this strategy has worked spectacularly. China's economy regained momentum in the early 1990s. In early 1992, China made a series of political pronouncements designed to give new impetus to and reinvigorate the process of economic reform. Along with continuity in the political system, but a bolder reform was announced in the economic system or announced as the hallmarks of the 10-year development plan for the 1990s. Although capital accumulation, that is, the growth in the country's stock of capital assets, such as new factories, manufacturing machinery, and communication systems, was important, as so were the number of Chinese workers. A sharp, sustained increase in productivity, that is, increased worker efficiency, was the driving force behind this economic boom. China has really come very far in the last 10 years. China's growth as an economy won't flow smoothly from the bottom left to the upper right side of the chart. But the fact remains that China will be the biggest, fastest-growing economy in the world in the 21st century. In fact, it is interesting to note that when China began its reforms, Deng Xiaoping put military last on the list for modernization. 9. China's economy is gathering momentum and gaining speed. After a period of a double-digit growth in the post-Tiananmen period of the early 1900s, the law of large numbers would have predicted that this kind of growth couldn't happen again. But China has defied conventional wisdom. Already one of the largest economies, China grew by at least 10% in 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006 and 2007. The country had $21 billion in foreign reserves in 1993. 10 years later, in 2003, China was adding $200 billion or more of reserves into its coffers each year. By the end of 2006, China had more than $1 trillion in foreign currency reserves, an unprecedented amount that was growing by $50 billion each month. China's leaders are traveling the world negotiating long-term supply contracts with oil-producing countries. China doesn't have enough of its own energy reserves, and obtaining enough energy to fuel its economy is a very real concern. Quest for energy. South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Singapore were dubbed Asian tigers as they sustained rapid economic growth and industrialization from the 1960s through the 1990s. China's rise in the 21st century, the rise of the Asian dragon, has the potential to surpass greatly the growth of the Asian tigers. Since the beginning of economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping, China has averaged an annual gross domestic product (GDP) growth rate of 9.4%. Since 1978, foreign trade has grown from a fraction of a percent of the world economy, or $20.6 billion, to over 4%, or $851 billion in 2005. China's GDP is the world's third largest at roughly January 7 that of the United States, yet because of its population of 1.3 billion, on a per capita basis, China is ranked roughly 100th in the world and considered a low-income developing country. Many economists believe that with the latent potential of a rapidly emerging middle class, China has the potential to continue its impressive growth for many years to come. An ever-increasing demand for energy fuels China's growth. China's energy needs. The majority of China's energy requirement, 70%, is currently met by coal. China is the world's largest producer and consumer of coal. Although coal will remain preeminent, oil consumption is expected to grow at an average annual rate of 5.8% for the next 10 years. In 1985, China was East Asia's largest petroleum exporter. In 1993, China became a net oil importer. And in 2004, China leapfrogged Japan to become the world's second-largest oil importer. Roughly 40% of all new world oil demand is attributable to China's rising energy needs. Secure access to foreign oil resources will be necessary both for continued economic growth and for the survival of the Chinese Communist regime, because since growth is the cornerstone of China's domestic stability, for the survival of the Chinese Communist regime. http://en.wikipedia.org/swiki/ economy_of_the_ People's Republic of China. Jack Perkovsky, Managing the Dragon. Robin Meredith, The Elephant and the Dragon. Chapter 3, The Pearls and Their Strategic Significance. A few strategists in India and US have been using the term string of pearls to designate those areas where China is establishing its bases. These bases have been given the term pearls. Each pearl in this string is a nexus of Chinese geopolitical influence or military presence, which stretches from Hainan Island to Gwadar 10. Gwadar, Pakistan. Gwadar Port is a small fishing village, 450 miles west of Karachi and 75 kilometers east of Iran border, and was identified by Pakistan as a potential port location in 1964 but lacked the means to develop. It is a deep-sea, warm-water port situated in the Balochistan province of Pakistan at the apex of Arabian Sea and entrance of Persian Gulf. The port facility at Gwadar is a win-win prospect for both China and Pakistan. The port at Karachi currently handles 90% of Pakistan's seaborne trade, but because of its proximity to India, it is extremely vulnerable to blockade. This happened during the India-Pakistan War of 1971 and was threatened again during the Kargil conflict of 1999. The port is strategically located between three important regions: oil-rich Middle East, heavily populated Pakistan, and the Central Asian region. A modern port at Gwadar would enhance Pakistan's strategic depth along its coastline with respect to India. For China, the strategic value of Gwadar is its 240-mile distance from the Strait of Hormuz. 11. China has funded a majority of the $1.2 billion project and provided the technical expertise of hundreds of engineers. Since construction began in 2002, China has invested 4 times more than Pakistan and contributed an additional $200 million towards the building of a highway to connect Gwadar with Karachi. This port accrues the following advantages for China: it can serve as a potential Chinese naval anchor. It serves as an energy transport hub to carry oil from Gwadar to its western region of Xinjiang by an oil pipeline. It helps insulate the Chinese imports from interdiction in case of any major war. It benefits by having access to international trade routes. Use of rail network is also a major advantage, although the access in this case may be hampered due to the difference in gauge between China, Pakistan and CAR nations. Shanghai Port is approximately 16,000 km from Chinese industrial areas, and sea travel adds another 2 to 3 months, whereas Gwadar is only 2,500 km and will work throughout the year. It also provides Beijing with a listening post from where it can monitor U.S., India and U.S.-India maritime cooperation. As Admiral, RETD, Suresh Mehta 12, said, it has a serious strategic implication for India, being only 180 Newton meters from the exits of Strait of Hormuz, would enable Pak to take control over the world energy jugular and interdiction of Indian tankers. Hambantota, Sri Lanka. Hambantota is a rural town in the sea coast of Sri Lanka. As per the 2007 agreement, development of Hambantota included 13. Developing a container port, developing a bunkering system, establishing an oil refinery, setting up an airport and other facilities. The approximate expenditure in setting up Hambantota was $1 billion, of which 85% will be financed by China over the next 15 years. A question that comes to mind is that although there seems to be not much economic significance of this pearl to China, then why is it investing so heavily here? Possibly the following answers come to mind. There is a potential for Navy as a port of call. The port can be used for refueling purposes. The port will act as a listening post and watchtower on India's nuclear, space and naval establishments in South India. At present, there is no military component here, but China's involvement here would make much more sense from a military perspective. Chittagong, Bangladesh. Chittagong is the largest seaport in Bangladesh. China is developing a container port facility at Chittagong 14. However, it is important to note here that there has been no further word on this development, probably because of the regime change in Bangladesh, which is India-friendly. Situ, Myanmar. Among the many ventures of China in Myanmar, the following two are the most crucial: the gas pipeline from Myanmar's West Arakan state to Yangon province, using Situ port as a sea gateway. According to the 1992 agreement, China was ready to modernize Myanmar's naval facilities in return for the permission to use the Coco Islands. China undertook building a deep-sea port, Kyaukpu, 15. Road construction from Kamik to Situ, for which a feasibility study was done in 2005, and is also funding the road construction from Rangoon to Akyab. From 2013, Chinese oil tankers from the Middle East and Africa will be able to cross the Bay of Bengal to dock at Myanmar's Situ and Kyaukpu ports, from where their cargo will be transported through pipelines to Yangon. The transport time of fuel that bypasses the Malacca Strait in this way will be cut by a week. A recent article in the Outlook 16 explained the significance of Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping's December 2009 visit to Myanmar. One of the key reasons being China's determination to go ahead with the construction of the parallel oil and gas pipelines from the Arakan area of Myanmar to Yangon. He accorded a greater priority to the Arakan-Yangon pipeline as compared to the Gwadar-Xinjiang pipeline proposed by the Pakistan government, citing the reason that the Chinese government was more confident about the Myanmar army taking care of the security of parallel pipelines passing through Myanmar than about the Pakistan government for security of a pipeline passing through Pakistan. Moreover, the first stage of the pipeline connecting Xinjiang with the Central Asian republics has been recently commissioned, thereby reducing the urgency of a Gwadar-Xinjiang pipeline. There is another added advantage of the Arakan-Yangon pipelines over the pipeline from Gwadar. The former has a twofold benefit: it will help carrying oil brought by Chinese tankers from West Asia and Africa, thereby reducing present Chinese dependence on Malacca Strait. Transporting the gas procured locally in Arakan by Chinese companies. The pipeline from Gwadar can only be used to carry oil gas from West Asia. Pakistan does not have any oil or gas to sell to China. As per the Indian analysts, Chinese presence may allow it to interdict regional SLOCs. On this account, Myanmar is emerging as the single largest threat to Indian strategic interests in Asia. Coco Islands. Coco Islands are a pair of strategically important islands located in the East Indian Ocean politically administered by Burma under Yangon Division. The Great Coco Islands, 10x2, and Small Coco Islands, 5x1, are separated from each other by Alexandra Channel. They are separated from the Andaman by Coco Channel. Myanmar, 300 kilometers, and historically, these islands were a part of India under British rule, but due to lack of close supervision, they were transferred to Myanmar. These islands were supposedly leased to the People's Republic of China since 1994, according to various amateur sources. 17. The government of Burma and that of the People's Republic of China do not comment on such matter. China has helped in carrying out the following activities here: establishing a SIGINT and L&N gathering station, supposedly 92, on the Great Coco Island. Building a maritime base on the Little Coco Island. Development of airfield, radar dish, A. jetty and a number of buildings. However, there are no signs of a large base here. Strategic importance of this pearl for China: monitoring Indian naval activity, monitoring movement of other navies and ships ACE between Bay of Bengal and Malacca Strait. May be used to monitor the activities at the launch site of ISRO at Sriharikota and DRDO at Chandipur-on-Sea. According to Indian analysts, this may pose a threat to Indian Tri-Service Command at Port Blair, 190 Newton-meters away. If seen in toto, this completes the maritime encirclement of India. Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca is a narrow 805-kilometer stretch of water between peninsular Malaysia and Indonesian island of Sumatra. At the Phillips Channel, this strait narrows down to 2.8 kilometers, thus becoming one of the world's most significant choke points. Straits of Malacca and Hormuz have become crucial waterways for China. Close cooperation with Myanmar and Pakistan thus also becomes a crucial issue. 18. From economic and strategic perspectives, Strait of Malacca is one of the most important shipping lanes of the world. This strait is economically significant for China in that 50,000 vessels pass through it each year and almost 80% of China's oil passes through the strait. In essence, whoever controls Malacca threatens China's oil supply route. China gave a statement indicating that it would use its naval might to ensure that these sea lanes remain open. In President Hu Jintao's own words, 19, Malacca dilemma is the key to China's energy security. Hu also hinted that various powers, including US, had tried to enlarge their scope of influence in the Straits of Malacca by either controlling or trying to control navigation in the Straits of Malacca. It is interesting to note here that India's naval base in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands puts India in an advantageous position. Krk Canal or the Thai Canal is actually a plan for a large canal that would cut through southern Thailand to enable improved transportation in the region. China had planned to construct this over 10 years, employing 30,000 workers with an estimated cost of $1 billion. However, initially the plan seemed to have been dropped owing to environmental concerns, but recently there have been signs of revival of this plan since there are economic benefits for China and a threat of piracy in the Strait of Malacca. The plan was tentatively approved in 2007, but Singapore and US showed their dissent for obvious reasons. Another alternative to this plan is to build a pipeline across the isthmus to carry oil to ships waiting on the other side. South China Sea. South China Sea is located south of China and Taiwan, west of Philippines, northwest of Malaysia, north of Indonesia and east of Vietnam. The region has proven oil reserves, 7.7 billion barrels, 28 BN estimated, and its natural gas reserves are estimated at 7,500 kilometers 3. A significant part of this region is the Spratly Islands, where oil was discovered in 1968. It has been estimated by the Geology and Mineral Resources Ministry 20 of People's Republic of China that Spratly Islands may have oil reserves to make them the fourth largest reserve bed in the world. Hence, there is intensification by PRC to claim these islands. Woody Islands. Woody Islands are a part of the Paracel Islands occupied by PRC. This node acts as a Chinese emergency rescue center served by an artificial harbor and an airfield with a 2350m runway. The center was occupied in 1956 and also has oil tanks, gun emplacements and ammunition storage bunkers. The islands may be used as a staging point to SPOFFN ops in the Spratlys. There are also reports of the existence of Silkworm anti-ship cruise missile installations on the Woody Islands. In mid-95, a new SIGINT station was established on the Rocky Island, north to Woody Island. Since it is the highest point, there is good signal interception is obviously good. Hainan Islands. These 200 islands form the smallest province of PRC and are home to the planned strategic nuclear submarine naval harbor that is capable of hiding up to 20 nuclear submarines from spy satellites. The harbor houses nuclear ballistic missile subs and is large enough to accommodate aircraft carriers. Plan has developed Sanya Naval Base, Yulin, in southern part to Option-class subs, SSBNs, and Shang-class subs, SSNs, replaced Han-class. Rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Katak VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. Source, http://intellibriefs.blogspot.com/2008/ A1/ Quadar-port-has-strategic-implications.html source http://intellibriefs.blogspot.com/ 2008/ A1/ Quadar-port-has-strategic-implications.html source http://www.marinapos.com/ 2007/ 11/ O2/ China-funds-Sri-Lanka-Humbantola-Port-Development-Project/ Dilip Ghosh, China's String of Pearls Encircling India, Asia Defense News Vol 4, Issue 12, December 15, 2009. Dilip Ghosh, China's String of Pearls Encircling India, Asia Defense News Vol 4, Issue 12, December 15, 2009. Source: http://www.outlookindia.com/ Article.aspx?2635331 Source: http://en.wikipedia.org/ Wiki/ Coco_Islands Maldives Atoll, China, India Relations Contemporary Dynamics Source: The Straits of Malacca, The Rise of China, America's Intentions and the Dilemma of the Littoral States, by Makazani Zubair, Researcher, Center for Maritime Security and Diplomacy Source: http://en.wikipedia.org/ Wiki/ Spratly_Islands Chapter 4 Possible Motivational Factors Behind This Strategy. China's development during the past decade, from its expanding economy and increased global influence to its growing military might and demand for energy, presented tremendous challenges to their leaders as they managed the turmoil of massive structural, technological, and social changes. The governing three key worries of the Chinese government have been: elites of China had three overarching concerns: regime survival, territorial integrity, domestic stability. In the succeeding paragraphs, these three concerns and their impact on the economy have been highlighted. The relation between the economy and the String of Pearls strategy has also been shown. Regime survival has always been and will shall remain the foremost concern of the ruling Chinese Communist Party, CCP. The party leadership is aware that their survival depends upon the satisfaction of the Chinese people and their ability how well they are able to protect Chinese national interests. The collapse of the when Soviet Union collapsed and the end of the Cold War ended, communism was deduced as a communism as a bankrupt ideology with a flawed economic system. 21. To avoid the same fate as had befallen the erstwhile USSR, the Chinese adopted a socialist market economy. Although a lot of economic and social reforms have taken place, but, in the middle of it, the CCP has maintained a strict authoritarian control. The CCP is aware of the fact that as long as the economy is thriving, the populace will be satisfied, and hence there would not be a serious threat to the current regime. Territorial integrity. China has in the recent past adopted a strategy of befriending its neighbors, with the notable exceptions being India and Taiwan, and in the process has met with considerable success too. Although certain contentious issues still remain with the countries such as Japan over some disputed islands, but more or less China has successfully demilitarized its land borders in the northern and the Central Asia. On the Central Asian front, China has become more influential under the support of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, whose member states consist of China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, along with the observer members of India, Pakistan, Iran, and Mongolia. It is slowly but surely laid to rest the dispute over Tibet, although in a more subtle way. The only spanner in the wheel that remains is its relations and territorial disputes with India, which are not showing any signs of fast progress. However, the relations with India have been more of a sine curve, with statements against one another coming from both sides. India has more or less recognized China's claims to Tibet, and China has reciprocated by recognizing India's claim to the Himalayan state of Sikkim. Even with respect to Taiwan, Chinese policy attempts to balance the stick of diplomatic and military pressure with the carrot of mutually beneficial cross-strait economic ties. With the last elections in Taiwan throwing some startling results in favor of China, The day is not far off when it will come into some sort of agreement with Taiwan also. What has made China want to have good relations with its immediate neighbors? Neighbors. The one thing that comes to mind is economy. It seems that the ever-increasing demands of increased economic development are the driving forces behind China's improved relations with her neighbors. Domestic stability again. Successful economic development is perceived as key to China's third area of strategic concern, domestic stability. CCP is focused inward, and primarily domestic politics drive China's foreign and economic policies. Changes to the economic system and the decision to embrace globalization are causing major shifts in Chinese society. 22. The Chinese government is aware that although it is moving towards becoming an economically prosperous nation, but everything is not in order inside their house. There are large disparities between the economy of the people who are living in the coastal cities such as Shanghai and the people who are living in the interior less developed regions which have not seen the effects of the information revolution. Due to this class distinction due as a result of economic stratification, the government is wary and knows that if there are anti-government demonstrations they cannot be repressed as was done earlier, the famous example being of the Tiananmen Square crackdown of June 1989. Thus, to address this issue, the regime is aware that it needs to bring economic parity to its provinces such as Yunnan and Xinjiang. In meeting this challenge, the government must foster economic prosperity to satisfy the demands and expectations of the Chinese people. Link with energy. All these three above-mentioned factors, as have been shown in the preceding paragraphs, are inescapably linked with the economic prosperity of China. The government of China is aware that the greatest strength of China as also its greatest vulnerability is its economy, and hence it has based its national policy and strategy on economy around this key factor. For its economy to continue thriving, as is with the case of all nations, China knows that it has to rely upon continued and sustained import of energy. Since energy provides the foundation of the economy, China's economic policy depends on the success of its energy policy. As the energy resources available within the country are quite limited and cannot ascribe to the full economy. Hence China, therefore, has to rely in a big way on the external sources of energy and raw materials. To import these energy resources and raw materials, it has to have a good and effective transportation system both on land and at sea is required. The three major problems that were faced by China in importing energy via land-based routes were that firstly, most of the energy-rich nations are either not connected by land. Secondly, it would take a major effort and would not be cost-effective to connect them with land, and thirdly, even if these nations were connected, their links pass through other nations, which may be a risk keeping in mind the fluid world order and changing equations. Hence, it was important that the sea lines of communications, which were importing the major chunk of energy, be secured. Securing sea lines of communications for energy and raw material supports China's energy policy and is the principal motivation behind the string of pearls. This is how and why the string of pearls relates to China's grand national strategy. Protection of SLOCs. The question that arises here is that from whom is the protection is required, if at all? Whom does China fear? Over 70% of the total oil imports of China come from either the Middle East or the African countries, majority of which is transported through sea, and this will remain so for the foreseeable future. Hence, China has a long-term commitment to these supply sources, due to which it has been trying to build up better relations with these countries, whether that comes as monetary help or in some other form. For egg, Saudi Arabia is China's largest crude oil supplier, and the Saudi National Oil Company, Aramco, is a 25% investor in China's biggest refinery and petrochemical complex. China recently signed a 25-year oil and natural gas deal with Iran, its biggest ever, worth over $70 billion. In Africa, China has invested $3 billion to develop Sudan's unexploited oil resources, including a 930-mile pipeline, a refinery, and a seaport. As already brought out, the infrastructure required to develop an overland link is massive and the cost quite high, which does not justify the construction of these overland links. The regional instability in and around these regions is also a major worry for China, and which further adds to the uncertainty of future development and long-term reliability. The current means available to China for the protection of these sea lines of communication were very limited. Moreover, seen with the fact that these communication lines pass through the Strait of Hormuz and the Malacca Straits, which are considered to be a haven for sea pirates. 37 incidents occurred in the Malacca Strait in 2004-23, many of which involved the crew being kidnapped for ransom or attacked by machine guns and rocket launchers. This increase in the piracy was also a major factor which prompted China to go in for development of some pearls to protect its sea assets. Also, China is aware that in case of a conflict, as brought out earlier, it will be very easy to choke its energy lines, and if proper protection is not provided to them, then it would become a major weakness for China. Thus, it is very clear that the motivation behind this string of pearls is as given above in the preceding paragraphs. However, if given a closer look, not all the pearls will be safeguarding the sea lines of communication. In the succeeding chapters it will be brought out that China is now engaged in a major way to establish bases all around the world where it thinks that its energy requirements can be met. These bases although may not threaten India directly, but the way China is going around the world to garner maximum energy sources, they may prove to be detrimental to the interest of India and other powers in future. 21 Lieutenant Colonel Christopher J. Pearson String of Pearls, meeting the challenge of China's rising power across the Asian littoral. 22 Lieutenant Colonel Christopher J. Pearson String of Pearls, meeting the challenge of China's rising power across the Asian littoral. 23 International Maritime Bureau's Annual Piracy Report Chapter V. Whoever controls the Indian Ocean dominates Asia in the 21st century. The destiny of the world will be decided on its waves' threat to India's energy security. A brief analysis. Although it has been said quite often that the development of these strings by China poses a serious military threat to India, however, what is often not seen is the propensity to take shelter under a dubious thesis that was first propounded by a Pentagon analyst in her late 20s, who since has moved on, unsurprisingly, to the Rand Corporation, known as the String of Pearls. 24. The advocates of the thesis have vociferously portrayed the Chinese activities in the South Asian region as unalloyed acts of hostility directed against India, with the grand design of creating an arc around India's neck that would stifle India's performance as a regional power. This chapter analyses the threat being posed by these pearls and will try and bring out that though these pearls do not pose a significant threat militarily, but they does pose a threat to the energy security of India in the longer run. In doing so, we will analyze each of these pearls in detail, as also the emergence of China as a leading player in the African region and the CAR and the danger it accrues to the Indian energy security. Gwadar Port. The interest of the Chinese in developing the port of Gwadar has been brought out earlier. Although China would want to transfer its oil from Gwadar to its Xinjiang province, but it would be pertinent to mention here that he would also like to get into the CAR through the development of this port. India, as is well known, had interests in the development of TAPI, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, pipeline and the IPI, Iran, Pakistan-India, pipeline projects. However, due to certain objection from the Pakistan government as well as due to the non-negotiation of the terms and conditions, these projects could not materialize. Now with the Chinese coming into this region, it is certain that they are definitely going to have an influence on these nations, and it would not be wrong to say that they would try and gain the maximum energy benefit that they can get. Reams of paper have been wasted on the Chinese presence in Gwadar. But what is coolly overlooked is that China of its own volition turned down the Pakistani offer to run the Gwadar port after its development with considerable Chinese aid. Arguably, China would benefit by direct access to the Persian Gulf, but it factored in that a managerial role in Gwadar was superfluous for achieving the purpose. Nor does China harbor rancor that Pakistan decided that Gwadar is best managed by a Singaporean firm with American links. Curiously, Gwadar has become as American Pearl, just as Myanmar too might if the determined American diplomacy toward Yangon makes headway. Hambantota. Although it is quite evident that development of Hambantota port by China does not in any way jeopardize energy security of India, but in the same vein it does not threaten the security of India in any way. It is time that we take a dispassionate look at the events that led to the formation of this pearl. Sri Lanka first offered the Hambantota port for development to India. New Delhi thumbed its nose at it 25, whereupon Colombo turned to Beijing for help. Sri Lanka was just a sovereign country trying to exploit its unique factors to its advantage for economic development. At any rate, It seems quite a far-fetched idea to fear about Sri Lanka becoming a pearl in the Chinese string, as there are very few people on this planet who treasure their autonomy of thinking and action as the Sinhalese do. China plans to use this port as a refueling and docking station for its navy as it patrols the Indian Ocean and protects China's oil. 26. Chittagong again. As is the case with Hambantota, it seems not only highly unlikely but also quite improbable that Chittagong, which is presently just a container port facility, to be developed into much more than what it is now. China values Bangladesh for its immense natural gas reserves, and they are accessible to it through proximity to Myanmar. 27. India should look at Bangladesh in this perspective and should try to have better relations with her rather than fretting on the fact that China is making inroads in a huge way. Otherwise, India would stand to lose not only diplomatically but also would fail to tap the vast amount of natural resources present in the country. Relevant in this regard is a statement by the Bangladesh Additional Foreign Secretary: "We have nothing to sell to the Chinese. We could sell a great deal to the Indians if they allowed us." 28. In this regards, it is also important to note that Bangladesh shares borders with India and not with China, thereby limiting its ability to distance itself from India. Myanmar has the world's 10th largest natural gas reserves, estimated at over 90 trillion cubic feet, TCF, in 19 onshore and 3 major offshore fields. Both India and China realize the importance of Myanmar strategically as also as far as their energy security needs are concerned. Firstly, Myanmar has the largest natural gas reserves in Southeast Asia and is also rich in oil. Secondly, as far as China is concerned, it provides an easy and quick route to its landlocked Yunnan province. Thirdly, as far as India is concerned, it would like Myanmar to be neutral and away from Chinese influence. India and China both are putting their energy needs first and are looking towards the nations which can fulfill them. Although in the international community Myanmar is considered to be a pariah state since the 1988 military crackdown on the nation's pre-democracy movement. 29, but that has not deterred either India or China to pursue their energy interests in that region. As per the agreement signed between China and Myanmar, they have agreed for constructing fuel pipelines that will transport Middle East and African crude oil from Myanmar's Arakan coast to China's Yunnan province. This would not only shorten the time period of sea voyage but would also enable China to draw on the gas reserves of Myanmar at the SHWE gas fields. It has been estimated that the SHWE field holds a gas reserve of 4 TCF to 6 TCF, and the Shwayu and the Maya fields have a combined proven reserve of 5.7 TCF to 10 TCF. Construction of the $1.5 billion oil pipeline and the $1 billion gas pipeline will begin soon and is expected to be completed by 2013-30. What India needs to consider at this moment is the question that why is it that China has been able to make serious inroads into the energy sector of Myanmar, and despite the fact that though it entered the market quite late, it has surely become Myanmar's biggest trader. The reasons for this could be attributed to the fact that China is a veto-holding member of the United Nations Security Council, and it is in a position where it may be able to prevent any resolutions which are detrimental to Myanmar's interest. China has made considerable headway on transnational pipelines while India is floundering. China's success in importing gas by transnational pipelines stems from its ability to aggressively sign deals based on a well-thought-out energy strategy. India has an integrated energy policy, but the geopolitical strategy seems to be missing. 31. It becomes very important that India has a geopolitical strategy on the lines of China's string of pearls to safeguard its energy interests. From string of pearls to circle of pearls, it is important for India that some amount of dispassionate analysis of the string of pearls policy be done so that it can be disregarded as an act of hostility directed towards India, and the true nature of threat that this policy brings about may be seen. As we know that this name was not given by the Chinese government but was a name which was founded by a Pentagon analyst somewhere in 2005. But does that mean that the Chinese have stopped after development of these pearls, or are we merely trying to overlook the facts that are staring right in our faces? A scrutiny needs to be done in order to see the facts as they emerged after 2004-05. The last of this string of pearls as we move from east to west seems to be Gwadar Port, or the Chinese presence in the Straits of Hormuz. But, indeed, is that the case, or in trying to give credence to this policy we are overlooking the fact that the Chinese have not stopped there? They have continued their policy of securing energy resources by tapping the resources of Africa, Sierra and South American nations. An examination is in order to delve into the psyche of the Chinese rulers. Africa. China and India are fast-rising economies with an ever-growing demand for energy resources. The requirements are likely to grow rapidly, and both the energy importers have no alternative but to diversify the resource base, in which China has already taken the lead. 32. Let us do a step-by-step analysis of Africa energy resources, Chinese entry and threat to Indian energy security. Africa's energy resources. Africa's energy resources have attracted global attention. China's foray into Africa. China has emerged as a ruthless competitor in African markets. Within a short span of time, the China-Africa trade has grown significantly. The two-way trade between India and the African continent totals about $30 billion a year. In comparison, the trade between China and Africa has grown from $55 billion in 2006 to $73.3 billion in 2007. 33. The surge in trade has been mainly due to China's import of oil and other commodities from Africa and the sale of low-cost manufactured products. As is with the case with Iran and Myanmar, China has not looked too perturbed over the provision of economic aid to pariah states like Sudan and Africa. Chinese leaders have raced across Africa inking deals with Nigeria, Angola and Equatorial Guinea. In November 2006, China hosted a summit that brought leaders from 48 African countries to Beijing, signed $1.9 billion worth of trade deals and were given $5 billion in Chinese aid. In February 2007, Chinese President Hu Jintao visited 8 African nations, offering development aid and cementing ties. 34. China has adopted a pragmatic political policy and agreed to provide aid and enter into business collaborations in Africa without a checklist of stringent norms on adherence to human rights, democracy and good governance. This unconditional aid is an attractive proposition for many of Africa's authoritarian rulers. Of late, African countries have realized that the continuing exploitation of their resources is one of the main reasons for their underdevelopment. Prompted by this understanding, the African countries have adopted a Look East policy as a pragmatic and fundamental decision. Today, many African countries such as Kenya, Angola, Sierra Leone, Zambia, Tanzania and Zimbabwe, amongst others, have welcomed investments and aid from the Asian giant. 35. China pursues a policy whereby the profit motive surpasses all other concerns such as democracy, good governance or human rights. India and Africa. Indian companies like ONGC, Indian Oil and Reliance have been active in seeking prospects for exploration indirectly. India has established a presence in Libya, Sudan, Angola, Nigeria and the area around the Gulf of Guinea. An important landmark in the India-Africa cooperation was the launch of the Indian government-funded Pan-African E-Network project in 2007. However, if we compare India with China in terms of economic relations with the African continent, the former appears to have missed the opportunities offered by the huge untapped natural resources of oil, gas and minerals that the African continent is endowed with. India's worries. It is the Chinese challenge that should worry Indian policymakers. But our response has been either to deny that there is a challenge from China or exaggerate the damage done by China's push into Africa. China has been proactive and has reached out to Africa, while India was passive in the past 2 decades. There has been a meaningful and policy-oriented debate on India's relations with African nations in recent days. Though a late entrant on the African continent, China has surpassed India-Africa trade, despite India's much hyped and talked about historical, cultural, diplomatic and ideological connections with the African continent. Though the cultural and ideological bridge was in evidence in India-Africa relations, the economic relationship progressed at a snail's pace. Although India has accumulated abundant goodwill in its relations with African nations, the economic context of these relations is low in comparison to that of China. India needs to make significant inroads into the African economy. India has an advantage in terms of acceptability because of a long-term association with Africa. It also has support for its investments, as the Indian government's policies are not motivated by profit alone. India has focused on capacity building in Africa and adheres to economic relations with Africa based on equal partnerships. The Indian assurance that its companies working on infrastructure projects in Africa would not bring the Indian labor force with them, but employ and train local staff to build capacity would help boost bilateral economic engagement. South American nations. China has also aggressively courted the Latin American countries and is developing its sphere of influence. Often overlooked trade between China and these countries have increased to $400 billion annually. As far as energy is concerned, China has tapped into the resources of Venezuela, ignoring its anti-US stance. Seen in this light, India's efforts almost come to a not in comparison. China has taken almost an unassailable lead in the sphere of securing its energy needs, and it becomes imperative for India to come out of its self-imposed shell if it needs to secure some of its energy needs, let alone give competition to China in this part of the world. There are only finite energy resources in the world, and to tap them at the earliest should be the major worry of our policymakers. CAR. The Central Asian region is one of the most energy-rich regions in the world. Turkmenistan has the world's fourth largest reserves of natural gas, while Kazakhstan's oil reserves are said to be 3 times those of the North E36. Beijing imports a large amount of its energy from Russia, but has become increasingly interested in buying directly from Central Asian suppliers, including oil from Kazakhstan and natural gas from Turkmenistan. 37. The following points merit attention. SCO. China was a founding member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, consisting originally of Russia, China, and its 4 Central Asian members, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. 38, and the SCO has indeed led to greater cooperation, specifically in regards to regional political stability, terrorism, trade, electricity, and last but not the least, energy. In short, the Central Asian chessboard is enormous, the pieces are numerous, and the stakes are high. 39. Though the SCO created an energy club and its members have signed a multitude of oil and gas pipeline deals, its members' specific energy interests are in many ways contradictory and have not been shown to be easily resolvable. The main competition in the Central Asian region is between Russia and China, with China desiring pipelines to the east and Russia the north. 40. And it does not augur well for India that the deals which it needed to sign with the CAR countries have not yet materialized. Deals with the CAR countries. China has loaned Turkmenistan $3 billion, which will give it a stake in the Turkmen's enormous Yalatan Osman gas field, rumored to be the world's largest. Kazakhstan got a $15 billion loan, giving China a 22% share in Kazakh oil production. Beijing is planning an almost 4,000-mile, $26 billion Turkmen-Kazakh-China pipeline to run from the Caspian Basin to Guangdong Province in China. There are currently 35 Chinese companies operating in Turkmenistan on 53 investment projects related to energy, telecommunications, agriculture, textiles, food production, healthcare, and construction, worth more than $1 billion in total. 41. Emerging equation with Russia. According to former Indian diplomat and current Asia Times commentator M.K. Bhidrakumar, after years of tension between Moscow and Beijing, the two countries are bearing that past and steering their relationship in the direction of a strategic partnership in the overall international situation, rather than competing over energy resources. India and CAR. India had 2 major projects in the pipeline as far as the CAR is concerned. The TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and the IPI, Iran, Pakistan, India, although it seems that TAPI project will more or less materialize, but the main issue is the safety of this pipeline, which passes through a trouble-torn region of Afghanistan. As if this was not enough, in the past year even Pakistan is now embroiled in a war of its own, and the future of this project in this regard seems quite bleak. The Hindu rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal, July, September 2009. Rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal, July, September 2009. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechus M, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. The Elephant and the Dragon Source, http://www.attimes.com/ @times/ south_asia/ KDO3DFO3.html source, http://ipcs.org/ article/ Southeast-Asia/ Myanmar-China-Engagement-Implications-for-India-2898.html Africa Quarterly India pledges development projects for Africa during summit with African leaders, International Herald Tribune, April 8, 2008. The Elephant and the Dragon remarks of Rear Admiral Raja Menon, RETD, during his visit to DSSC http://www.thestar.com/ comment/ article/ 481731 http://www.rferl.org/ content/ article/ 107967.html. The End of the American Century http://www.crisismagazine.org/ index.php/ July-16-to-July-23-2009/ blood-and-oil-iron-central-asia.html source, http://centralasia.foreignpolityblogs.com/ 2008/04/01/ the-Shanghai-competition-organization/ source, http://www.rferl.org/ content/ new_gas_pipeline_showcases_Turkmen_Chinese_cooperation/ 1901525.html Chapter 6 Implications for the U.S. Americans and earphones will have to run at least as fast as the fastest line, and that line will be China. Since the beginning of economic reforms in 1970s, China has been the world's fastest expanding economy. The country is expected to overtake Germany in 2010 as the world's third largest economy after the US and Japan. 42. The question that arises is that how can China endanger the energy security of a superpower like the US? Although still in its early stages, but the signs are more or less becoming clear that the US-dominated world order is changing under the pressure of China emerging as a mammoth economic power. 43. China has the world's largest population, is also the second largest consumer of energy and the third largest importer of oil. Its enormous appetite for energy and petroleum is also one of the main reasons for the rise of gasoline prices in the US. In the next few paragraphs, the attempt would be to analyze the growing influence of China in the Indian Ocean region and the effect of its string of pearls policy on the energy security of the US. A strategic competitor till a few years back, US had a complete hegemony over the region of Indian Ocean, Middle East and the African countries. However, over the past decade, China's share of world energy consumption has increased from 9 to 12%. 44. Due to this fact and its dependence on the Middle East heightened Beijing's concern about the U.S. control of its sea lanes of communication, which led it to expand its influence along the routes connecting the Arabian Gulf, Indian Ocean, Strait of Malacca and South China Sea. 45. South China Sea. As already brought out earlier, South China Sea has one of the largest known oil and gas reserves, and hence the competition to control the Spratly and the Paracel Islands is extremely fierce. The US obviously is quite worried of the growing Chinese influence in this region, and quite rightly so, as the energy resources of the world are diminishing at an alarming rate. China, on the other hand, has for the past decade tried and succeeded to quite an extent in forging good relations with its neighbors in and around these islands. Christmas. This Pearl of Christmas is an interesting project which the Chinese had envisaged. However, the two countries which are opposing this project are Singapore and the US, for the obvious reasons, as it would greatly affect the economy of Singapore. Moreover, the Chinese are wary of the influence of US and India on the strait through Malacca and would not want it to rely on only this small bottleneck in case of any hostilities. Chinese influence in Africa and CAR. If we see the presence of China in Africa and CAR as an extension of String of Pearls policy, it becomes quite evident as to why US is so chary of Chinese presence in this region. The arguments given in the earlier chapter stand true for the US as well. With the energy resources at a premium and increasingly wars being fought over oil, most of the nations in an endeavor to safeguard their interests are reaching out to those regions where the energy resources are in abundance. Increasing influence of Russia and China in the CAR region and their recent bonhomie has clearly unnerved the US. These two nations have signed a $25 billion oil agreement that will supply Beijing with 4% of its needs through 2034. The two countries are currently negotiating a natural gas deal. Hence, it becomes imperative for America too that it should try and resist the influence of these nations in these regions. A step in this direction had already been taken by the Obama administration by increasing aid to Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. This extension of the policy of China isn't limited to the Middle East and Central Asia. As discussed in the previous chapter, China has also been greatly expanding its presence in Africa. Beijing is particularly interested in countries with oil and other mineral resources and has signed at least 40 oil agreements with various African countries. The country's pragmatic and soft power approach seems to be striking a chord in African countries 46. If the String of Pearls policy started by Chinese soft approach towards countries such as Indonesia and Myanmar, then it has grown in the last couple of years by its same approach towards CAR and African countries. It exists in South America also, from the steamy depths of Venezuela's Orinoco Basin to the depths of the South Atlantic off the coast of Brazil. This is the right time that US realizes that oil and gas need not be the ultimate aim of the US. The aim of the US should be to control the sources of the energy of its rivals, as controlling these energy sources would ultimately result in controlling these nations. However, China, it seems, has preempted the US in this regards, and it seems a very difficult proposition that America, from the position as it stands today, can control an emerging China or the sources that it has accumulated. The US has enormous military power, but it seems that the days of controlling an energy-rich nation may be gone, as diplomacy and good relations take a center stage. As really the Chinese have shown, it is possible to garner a great share of the world energy market without getting into actual conflict. The Americans, if they have to keep an edge over China in this competition, would like to take a leaf out of the Chinese book. The trick over the next several decades will be how to keep the competition for energy from sparking off brushfire wars or a catastrophic clash of the great powers. 47. The End of the American Century. Defense Watch, December 2009. The End of the American Century. JFQ Issue 55. 4th QTR 2009. The End of the American Century. http://www.crisismagazine.org/ index.php/ July-16-to-July-23-2009/ blood-and-oil-iron-central-asia.html. Chapter 7 Conclusion. The road ahead. The Indian military establishment has been crying hoarse for some time about the growing Chinese military threat. Every move that is made by China in the region is viewed with suspicion. Chinese help for the upgradation of ports in Myanmar, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka has been interpreted as moves to encircle India with a string of pearls and shown as giving rise to maritime encirclement of India. This seems to be a futuristic assessment, as China would take at least a decade if not more to develop the kind of military force to give China a greater clout in the Indian Ocean region. 48. Former Foreign Secretary Shiv Shankar Menon said recently that there were no Chinese naval bases in the region despite all the talk about the String of Pearls. 49. Chinese diplomacy, despite the pinpricks, remains focused on ensuring the country's peaceful rise as a superpower in the coming decades. String of Pearls theory, as we knew it earlier, does not seem to be a valid theory, as has been pointed out in the earlier chapters. Containment is not valid anymore, as it is more of a make neighbors rich theory. 50. It is in this light that the policy of China should be viewed. The so-called China String of Pearls policy emanated from the Chinese perception of a danger to its sea lines of communication, but over a period of time this policy, if seen in totality, is nothing but a part of race for resources. This race for resources, especially oil, can put countries at loggerheads. 51. The world is engaged in a desperate race for resources. They need to continue to grow. China has taken a head start in the race by following its policy of string of pearls, which takes care of having a base near the energy-rich resources as well as keeping its sea lines of communication open in case of any eventuality. The views on China of two recently retired foreign secretaries of the government of India, Shyam Soren and Shiv Shankar Menon, as reported by The Hindu, are restricted to the sphere of maritime security, but indicate a desire to look for ways for working with China instead of treating China all the time with suspicion. 52. India needs to put a correct perspective on the policy being followed by China. Instead of accusing the Chinese of making a maritime string around the country to be used in case of war, the realization should dawn on our policymakers that it is the energy which is being sought after and the maritime threat presently is only secondary. The former Indian Navy chief, Arun Prakash, has written that China has created weapon client states such as Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Iran to surround India. However, it would also be pertinent to note here that Myanmar is known to be paranoid about its neutral status and has gone to considerable lengths to retain it. It is also well known that Bangladesh, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have closer strategic links with Washington than Beijing. Iran, like India, is so far not known to be subservient to the strategic interests of a third country. 53. What threat does Hambantota or Coco Islands pose is really questionable, but they do seem to point to an intent which is quite clear. Starting from the Hainan Islands and gradually building bases in or around the energy hubs of the world clearly points to a strategy which revolves around securing as much of energy sources as possible. The chances of a conflict in the near future between India and China though cannot be ruled out entirely, but are bleak as both the nations do realize that they are growing economies and cannot afford a war at this stage in time. Both India and China are energy deficient and need a stable international order and affordable energy imports. 54. Although, earlier when speaking of this policy, Gwadar or Strait of Hormuz was the last pearl which we used to identify this policy with. But in the last couple of years the Chinese have expanded its reach more towards the west and has gone in a big way into the sea air in the energy-rich African states. India should realize that what it is seeing is a new game in Asia. 55. By practicing currency diplomacy in an attempt to win political and energy-rich allies. Development of Gwadar port provides a much shorter route than before. It will also be useful in countering the Soviet influence over the sea air by providing a much shorter access route from CAR to its Xinjiang province. Similar is the case with Myanmar, Strait of Malacca and Kra Isthmus. Rocky Island as a pearl not only gives it an access to the happenings in the South China Sea but also might serve as a possible platform for any operations on the energy-rich and controversial region of Spratlys and Paracel Island. The other smaller pearls like Hambantota or Coco Island seem to be just act as a listening post and provide security to its sea lines of communication. Hence, it would be in India's interest to try and secure the available energy sources as early as possible in a planned manner before it so happens that with its policy of attracting friends and influencing people most of these sources are secured by China. Hence, in conclusion, it would be prudent to say that it is imperative that India should participate in shaping an emerging economic and security architecture in the region in close collaboration with all stakeholders, including China. This arrangement should be open, inclusive and loosely structured. There is enough space in the region and beyond for both India and China to be ascendant. 56. As Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon said, my question is, therefore, if energy and trade flows and security are the issues, why not begin discussing collective security arrangements among the major powers concerned? 57. There is a growing realization in recent months that the cause of international and regional peace and security might be served better by treating China as a possible security partner than as a security threat. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM. USI Journal July, September 2009. China Bogey by John Sherian, Frontline Volume 26, Issue 21, October 10 to 23, 2009. Remarks of Rear Admiral Raja Menon, RETD, during his visit to DSSC The Elephant and the Dragon Defense Watch. John Sherian, The Battle is On, Frontline Volume 24, Issue 18, September 8 to 21, 2007. The China Threat, Perceptions, Myths and Reality by Herbert E. and Ian Story. Remark from Manu Bhaskaran, Adjunct Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Policy Studies in Singapore. Remarks from Shyam Saran, retired Foreign Secretary of the Government of India, at a seminar on security and development at Port Blair in Andamans on September 5. Remarks from Shiv Shankar Menon, retired Foreign Secretary of the Government of India, during a lecture at the National Maritime Foundation of New Delhi on September 11. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. www. U.S.-China Commission, 2005 Report to Congress. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. www. M.K. Bhadrakumar, India and its Troublesome Neighbors, The Hindu, November 2, 2009. http://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/ economy_OF_the_People's Republic of China. Jack Perkovsky, Managing the Dragon. Robin Meredith, The Elephant and the Dragon. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. Source: http://intelebriefs.blogspot.com/ 2008/01/ Gwadar-port-has-strategic-implications.html. Source: http://intelebriefs.blogspot.com/ 2008/01/ Gwadar-port-has-strategic-implications.html. Source: http://www.marinapos.com/ 2007/11/ 02/ China-Funds-Sri-Lanka-Humbantola-Port-Development-Project/ Dilip Ghosh, China's String of Pearls Encircling India, Asia Defense News Vol. 4, Issue 12, December 15, 2009. Dilip Ghosh, China's String of Pearls Encircling India, Asia Defense News Vol. 4, Issue 12, December 15, 2009. Source: http://www.outlookindia.com/ article.aspx?2635331. Source: http://en.wikipedia.org/ wiki/ Coco_Islands Amardeep Athwal, China, India Relations Contemporary Dynamics. Source: The Straits of Malacca, The Rise of China, America's Intentions and the Dilemma of the Littoral States, by Makhzani Zubair, Researcher, Center for Maritime Security and Diplomacy. Source: http://en.wikipedia.org/ wiki/ Spratly_Islands Lieutenant Colonel Christopher J. Pearson. One String of Pearls, Meeting the Challenge of China's Rising Power Across the Asian Littoral. Lieutenant Colonel Christopher J. Pearson. One String of Pearls, Meeting the Challenge of China's Rising Power Across the Asian Littoral. International Maritime Bureau's Annual Piracy Report. The Hindu Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. Rising China, Implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal July, September 2009. Elephant and the Dragon. http://www.attimes.com/ @times/ south_asia/ KDO3DFO3.html http://ipcs.org/ article/ Southeast-Asia/ Myanmar-China-Energy-Engagement-for-India-2898.html Africa Quarterly. India pledges development projects for Africa during summit with African leaders. International Herald Tribune, April 8, 2008. The Elephant and the Dragon remarks of Rear Admiral Raja Menon, RETD, during his visit to DSSC. http://www.thestar.com/ comment/ article/ 481731 http://www.rferl.org/ content/ article/ 107967.html. The end of the American century. http://www.crisismagazine.org/ index.php/ July-16-to-July-23-2009/ blood-and-oil-in-central-asia.html http://centralasia.foreignpolityblogs.com/ 2008/04/01/ the-Shanghai-competition-organization/ http://www.rferl.org/ content/ new_gas_pipeline_showcases_Turkmen_Chinese_cooperation/ 1901-525.html. The end of the American century. Defense Watch, December 2009. The end of the American century. JFQ issue 55, 4th QTR 2009. The end of the American century. http://www.crisismagazine.org/ index.php/ July-16-to-July-23-2009/ blood-and-oil-in-central-asia.html. Rising China, implications for India by Major General, RETD, DHIUV Catechism, VSM, USI Journal. July, September 2009. China Bogey by John Cherian, Frontline Volume 26, Issue 21, October 10 to 23, 2009. Remarks of Rear Admiral Raja Menon, RETD, during his visit to DSSC. The Elephant and the Dragon. Defense Watch, John Cherian. The Battle is On, Frontline Volume 24, Issue 18, September 8 to 21, 2007. The China Threat, Perceptions, Myths and Reality by Herbert E. and Ian Story. Remark from Manu Bhaskaran, Adjunct Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Policy Studies in Singapore. Remarks from Shyam Saran, retired Foreign Secretary of the Government of India, at a seminar on security and development at Port Blair in Andamans on September 5. Remarks from Shiv Shankar Menon, retired Foreign Secretary of the Government of India, during a lecture at the National Maritime Foundation of New Delhi on September 11. Thank you for taking your time to listen to me. I hope you enjoyed learning about China's string of pearls policy as much as I did. Kindly remember that you can get a custom, plagiarism-free essay at Squid Essays for as little as $10. The link is in the description. See you next time.